Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream and the first live stream of the new year. So happy new year, guys. Hope you're doing well. But unfortunately for Chelsea, a new year didn't mean a new start. It meant same old shit that we've been watching for a long time now. A really disappointing 1-1 draw at Forest. I mean, it feels like we've lost. We did pick a point up, but that's kind of how bad the performance was. It's 1 win in our last 7 games now. That kind of is relegation form. Also, we're not going to go down, but the form is what you expect from teams near the bottom, like Forest. And being at the game yesterday, watching that second half, particularly, you would have thought that we were 19th and Forest were in the top 6, top 7. It was very disappointing. But the worst thing for me is that it's not actually a surprise. It's kind of what I expect from Chelsea right now. It's where the club's at, and this kind of expectation that we should just be doing better than we actually are because we're Chelsea and because of what we've done in the past is actually unrealistic now. This is the situation. This is the reality, is that this is how good we are right now, and we're terrible. And you look at what Arsenal have been through, you look at what Man United have been through, you look at what Liverpool went through in the first few years with Klopp. It might be the case that we might finish 8th in back-to-back seasons before things get any better. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but there has to be a realization and an acceptance that could be the case, and we have to be prepared for that and accept it. And it's just annoying things after games on Twitter. I know it's not the best place to go, but you just see things that are just like so irrational, such poor takes, like kind of said in the heat of the moment. When yes, Graham Potter's got to do better. Yes, there's things that he needs to improve on and stuff. But ultimately, we've gone through so many managers, and the same problems are still there. I honestly think it doesn't matter what manager we've got in a dugout right now, things wouldn't be any better. I actually looked at something interesting beforehand. I know Tuchel had more games than Potter in the Premier League at Chelsea by, I think, had 8 games more in the 2022 year. But the points per game are the same, both 1.75 points per game. Obviously, Tuchel Tuchel has played 24 games though in the league to Potter's 16, so that could change. But right now, their points per game are exactly the same.
Potter got 16 because Potter wasn't here all of this season.
Yeah, 16 league games or it might include some of the Brighton games. Anyway, the points per game things were very. I'll see if I can bring it up on the screen. I'll have a look for it. But the points per game was either exactly the same or it's very similar. So despite results being poor, there's not too much different in the league. And I don't know about you, mate, but the constant Tuchel revisionism on the timeline is really annoying. As if like Tuchel was some sort of god in the league. He was terrible as well. Let's be perfectly clear. We've been languishing between 3rd and 5th for years now. We scraped 4th both years under Tuchel. We had to get Leicester to lose against Spurs on the final day to get the top 4. And then last year, when we should have easily got top 4, we somehow almost messed it up. And it went down to the last couple of games. So to pretend that, this is a surprise is utter nonsense. But, mate, we've had a few... more than a few hours since the game itself has finished. Have your thoughts on anything changed from when you initially spoke about it afterwards?
It's an interesting one because after games, obviously, like I do obviously the stream straight after, right? And then once I'm done streaming, only then I really check Twitter for post-game reaction. And then I always have this double hit of negativity. First, the actual game itself and my own reaction, then I stream and talk to the guys. And then I go on Twitter and I see it even worse. Like, it's crazy. But yesterday was to me so strange. I know you and me were talking just before we went live now, and you said you didn't expect anything from it. And maybe I shouldn't have either, but as much as the second half against Bournemouth wasn't amazing, I still can't understand how we can play like we did against Bournemouth in the first half and go from that within 3 halves of football, go to what we did in the second half yesterday. Like, as much as we can talk about opponents and Bournemouth maybe weren't good and Nottingham Forest were good yesterday, but still, the 2 extremes of that first half against Bournemouth and that second half against Forest, that is the definition of our problems. Like,
that's
the
Reece
fact
James.
Exactly. The fact that can happen. Those inconsistencies, that's the problem. Because, and I see a lot of things, whether it's on Twitter or people on their YouTube channels and stuff talking about things. You know how people say, all the players are awful. All the players are awful. Or all Potter is awful. Or everything is just awful. I'm like, when you look at the individuals in our team, Very few of them are actually awful. The problem is that as a collective, we're too often awful. Like, we're not always awful, but we are too often awful as a collective. And I can't fully put my finger on why that is, because I don't like, yes, sure, our squad has certain deficiencies, absolutely. But does our squad have the deficiencies to those extremes that sometimes we play like? Because, you know, yes, we don't have the perfect squad, but we still have a much better squad than Nottingham Forest do. Like,
for sure,
even Aspilicueta would start for Nottingham Forest. I believe it. Like, maybe people would disagree, but I think Aspilicueta just went to the World Cup and started some games for Spain, man. Like, I know Spain didn't get that far, but they were also a bit unlucky. Not like Germany, who were just bad. Spain were a bit unlucky. And he was there. I know that doesn't mean everything, but he's still good enough to like play for a team like Forest. And that's why it's like, and it feels like when we watch Chelsea play, the second Reece James is out and Aspi plays instead of him, we are just done for. But that just can't be the case. Like, we can't just sit here and accept that. And just like that cannot be. Like, we need to, like, you know what I mean with that? Like, it just cannot be the case. But then when you watch yesterday's game, the first half, I mean, we controlled the game, but obviously in terms of chance creation, there was nothing other than one fluke goal.
Yeah.
And they had a few counterattacks. Okay, happens. But then the second half was just so dire, and the subs made no sense. And then also, like, we tried to play a certain way, and then it clearly didn't work for an hour straight. And yes, we changed players, but we didn't actually change how we tried to play. Now, I can be on board with that to some extent, because, we didn't know each other back then, but I was a fan of Sarri. I was like, okay, I understand some games are going to be bad because he's always going to play the way he wants to play, but he's going to play the way he wants to play until it just works. And when it works, it's going to be amazing. So, but Potter isn't like that anyway, because until now at Chelsea, he's changed formations between games, in games, like all sorts of changes. No consistencies in terms of selection, formation, system. I know, okay, it was before he had any time to work with the team, and now he had a little bit of it, okay? But still, the fact that you don't change anything, and then in a game where we're already losing the physical battle, even though I didn't think Zakaria was good, even though I understand maybe the thought process, okay, you bring Kovacic on to get some more control of the game, I assume, because that's what we lost in the second half. Why would you, like, you took the only physical midfielder we had off and brought someone on that's been in training for 3 days? I don't really, like, I, as a fan, I understood it at the time, and then it just didn't work. But he's obviously the manager, and he's supposed to, like, know that it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he's getting paid for. But also a lot of the fans, in terms of they're now Potter out, and Potter's the worst manager.
That's terrible.
It's just triggering. Like, it's really triggering. I tweeted this earlier. I'm honestly getting to a point now where I'm like, okay, sack him then. Just to prove to some of these idiots that it's not going to change. Genuinely, I'm like, just sack him then. It doesn't matter. Because I'm not that hung up on Potter where I'm like, okay, he's going to be our Lord and Savior. No, I don't know. He probably isn't. But I just don't. What I know for a fact is that he isn't the main problem right now. And I don't understand why people just, I don't know. They just try to portray all the issues on one scapegoat. And we always pick a new scapegoat. Many years ago, it was Michael Emenalo.
Yeah.
Then it was always the managers in between. But it was Sarri, it was Lampard, and for a few people, and for a while it was Thomas Tuchel. Then Marino was the scapegoat for a while. Hey, there was periods in some, like, people started to scapegoat Roman Abramovich. Then at the beginning of this whole thing in the summer, they started blaming Todd Bowley. Then we sacked Tuchel. Then they started blaming Graham Potter. I'm like, you're just always looking for someone to blame. As soon as that person is gone, you're like, okay, that person's gone and the problems are still here. So we need a new person to blame. Well, I'm like, well, that's not going to fix anything, is it?
No, do you know what? I think that two things. I'll get onto the second one in a sec, but just on that one win in the last 7 games and whatnot, that I worry how one-dimensional we are as a team, and we're almost reliant. We're so reliant on Reece James in the same way that we were so reliant on Eden Hazard, where basically, if they don't play well, we're shit, or we don't have them, we don't win any football matches. We've won 1 match since Reece James picked up his injury in the San Siro. We beat Villa 2-0 at Villa Park, and we didn't deserve to win that game. Although we've won some. I know we've won some Champions League ones, but in terms of the league ones, we haven't won any games. That we've won one game since Reece James got injured. Villa Park away 2-0, and we were lucky in that game as well.
Yeah. And then obviously Bournemouth when he was back.
And Bournemouth when he was back, and we won. So, and then he goes and we don't win against. I'm not saying if Reece James plays yesterday against Forest, we definitely win.
Oh, I think we do.
It improves our chances. And I was looking this up earlier. Our points per game when Reece James does play is 2.4. When he doesn't play, 0.75 points per game. It's bad, man. Mate, it's so bad. I mean, mate, are you concerned about how? And it shouldn't make as much difference in a back four as it does in a five, because obviously in a five he gets forward a lot more. But he's still important in a four for sure. But mate, how can you understand why when he doesn't play it just goes to shit? And I know we can easily say, oh, it's because we've got Azpilicueta there, but there's still 9 other outfield players on the pitch. You shouldn't take Reece James out and then everyone else collectively is shit as well. Like, I don't understand how we've got to a position where we're so reliant on him in order to actually play any decent football.
It's mind-boggling, quite frankly. Like I just said earlier, Aspie, yeah, we know he's bad and he's getting on, but he's 33. He's not like 40. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and it's not like Aspie has had a completely injury-riled career where you'd expect him to like decline, like a Wayne Rooney super early and stuff. Or he also didn't start his career and play every game of every season from the age of 16. He didn't. So like, yes, he's a fullback where it's a very like physically intense position in terms of sprinting and stuff, but it shouldn't be this bad. And I genuinely don't know what the reason is. Like, is it partly confidence of the players around Reece that makes the players around Reece play better as well? Like even Zakaria, like he was so much better in that first half against Bournemouth the other day than in the second half against Bournemouth and yesterday. Like honestly, yesterday he looked like he couldn't control the football. And when he tried to run, honestly, he looks like a robot. Like he moves so, I don't know how to word it. It just moves like, when he makes a step, it isn't like a smooth movement. It's like chopping. Every step is like a stomp from him. And and it's weird. And Gallagher is the same. When Gallagher came on, I'm like, who are you? Like, you look like you've never played football before. What is this? How were you in the England squad? I know he didn't play anyway, but what? I'm baffled. And then what tops this even off, I think, the problem. Say, okay, when Aspie plays, we just have more issues because Aspie's slow and everything. But Aspie is the captain. And Aspie is clearly not a man that has no idea about football. He might not be able to play it as well anymore, but he clearly should understand football. So, and he's our captain. Why isn't he talking to the players around him, to Zakaria in front of him? Hey, stay a bit deeper. I'm struggling here. With Koulibaly, like, okay, we need to figure something out here. But also to the manager, like, because we at the moment do this thing of the right back attacks, Cucurella at the left stays. We always do that. I'm like, okay, with Reece James, I see that logic. But are we sure we should be doing that when Aspie plays right back? Because Aspie kept bombing forward, we lost the ball, and then Koulibaly had to defend the entire right-hand side on his own. Which, Koulibaly was bad, but he had to defend 3 players on his own for the whole game.
That side was getting hammered that second half. That number 9, well, I can't remember his name now.
No one remembers his name.
Mate, every time the ball came anywhere near, they just knocked that long ball forward, and then Koulibaly gets beaten in the air. Aspie was getting shredded every time down that left-hand side in the second half. And I think with Azpilicueta, I think he's been a great player. He's a club legend. But right now, for me, this guy cannot be in the team unless he's playing right side of a 3 in a back 3, because him at right back is being exposed now, and it's costing us time and time again. And I know it's easy to look back in hindsight,
but then who plays wing back, bro?
Well, right now we've got a problem. But this is what I mean, though. Like, I want to, and that kind of takes me nicely into the next bit. I would go into recruitment in depth a little bit in terms of kind of offering this kind of emotional and sentimental decision making. I think is really costing us as a club. I look at Azpilicueta as a prime example. He shouldn't be playing for Chelsea Football Club anymore. And I'm sorry, it's a simple. The decision to offer him a new contract means that we didn't go and buy a right back in the summer as backup for Reece James. And now look at the mess we're in. we have to play Aspilicueta there because we've got no one else, and he's not up to the task. So that decision there straight away, I don't know, it's irrelevant whose decision it was, whether it was Tuchel's, whether it was Bowley. It doesn't really matter. The decision was made, and it was a mistake, and now we're paying for it big time. And you look at, I want to start with this summer just gone in terms of recruitment. I'm going to take
you
it.
Something
Yeah,
quickly, just because you talking about the right backs reminds me. I saw a stat today, or a stat. I saw something today. Since 2012, 10 years. It's now 2023, so kind of more than 10 years. We've signed 2 right backs. 2. One of them is Aspi, and the other is Zappacosta.
Yeah, I was bringing it up now, mate, on the screen. Here it is. I had it ready to go. We might as well talk about this because, and we'll get into midfield later, but I honestly feel this mess that we're in right now is years and years of our short-term planning all coming home at once to get us, because that is terrible. I mean, look, we had Ivanovic that played. Well, Ivanovic was a centre back, but he could play right back. But again, he wasn't signed as a right back. And then, as you say, we've had Aspilicueta and Zappacosta.
And then even still, when did we sign Ivanovic? In like 2007 or something?
Yeah, it was a while ago. And you look at that. That is so poor, so poor. Like, why do we spend so much money on attacking players, and yet you then see like that
and centre backs?
Yeah, and yet in 2010, since in 12 years, as you say, 13 years or whatever, now we've signed 2 right backs, and Reece James has come through the academy. Like, can you understand? I cannot understand how we've got these people aren't stupid. We've got intelligent football people in terms of managers that have been there, coaching staff, like whoever's. Marina's not stupid. She might have done some stupid things and not got the best deal for us at the time, but at the same time, did do some pretty good stuff as well. Czech's not a stupid individual, but how can we go through all this time and think it's all right to have signed 2 right backs in 13 years? I just don't understand it. And now we're scrambling for a right back, and it's going to be tough to get a decent one in the window. Is in this window now.
And when you think about it, we signed Aspi in 2012, but for example, when we won the league under Jose, Aspi weren't even playing right back. He was playing left back.
He played left back, yeah.
And we had Ivanovic as the right back, and Aspi kind of as the backup right back, even though he was starting left back. So we weren't even using the one of the 2 right backs we signed the last 10 years at right back. By the way, you must have made a lot of friends out in Nottingham yesterday.
Oh, mate, yeah, we did. Mate, they are. No, I done a bit of a preview stuff with them before the game, and then done some stuff on the vlog. Yeah, no, guys, pleasure, no problem at all. Yeah, it was good. No problems, guys. It was good fun. So hopefully, we'll do something again for the return fixture if you guys are up for it. But yeah, mate, it was. I don't understand that. It's mad, and I honestly think one of the main reasons we're in such a mess right now is because of how bad the recruitment has been. And I'll get into midfield in a sec, but just in general, you look at it, and let's start with this summer just gone. I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure you felt the same as me. At the time, I thought, wow, this business, phenomenal, really good. Raheem Sterling, Koulibaly, Fofana, Cucurella, I think great players, done really well in their careers. And then really excited by it. And now I'm looking at it 6 months on, and hindsight's great. I actually think this was quite a poor window. And I know it's easy just to say that, but I looked at it and I thought to myself, well, hang on a second. All we've actually done is replaced what's gone. So Christensen and Rudiger, we replaced with Fofana and Koulibaly. Koulibaly hasn't been better than Rudiger, and he hasn't even been better than Christensen right now. I'm not saying that he can't be, and I'm not throwing him under the bus by any means. But the performance has not been great, but he's still adapting and he's still got time. But right now, he's not been better than either of those 2 players. Fofana could easily be better than both those 2 players, but he's not been fit enough, so he's been unreliable, so we can't really make a call on him. We've then replaced Timo Werner with Raheem Sterling, which, should in theory be an upgrade, but actually hasn't really been much of an upgrade so far. And then we've replaced Lukaku with Aubameyang, which is basically swapping shit for shit. So, when you actually look at it...
we both dislike Lukaku, but Lukaku is still miles clear of Aubameyang.
Oh, miles clear, mate. Aubameyang does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Honestly, mate, people say Lukaku's our worst ever signing. I can understand that
Yeah,
for the
I mean,
money
financially,
spent, but
sure, but like
this Aubameyang signing is awful. It's so bad, and like I think I do. I have to say I like a lot of what Todd Bowley's done since he's come in, but one thing that I think is really shit from him, or whoever signed it off, it probably was ultimately him. Don't sanction that. The only reason Chelsea wanted Aubameyang was because of Thomas Tuchel. You sacked Tuchel the game after, like 2 days afterwards, that Zagreb game. You knew you were going to sack him, so why did you sign Aubameyang for him? Aubameyang is a complete waste of space now. Even Arteta saw it at Arsenal all those years ago. He's done, and he offers absolutely nothing. It was a dreadful, dreadful signing.
it's awful. The fact that he didn't go to the World Cup and like had basically 8 weeks time to be fully fit, get himself sharp, get himself ready, get himself motivated, and all sorts of things. He couldn't like. Oh, the friendly against Aston Villa. I'm not sure if you saw.
Oh, mate, I watched it. He did nothing,
mate. He was so bad, and no wonder he's not getting starts. Like people said yesterday, why did you bring Aubameyang on? I'm like, well, he wouldn't have if Broja was fit. Pi said, well, we don't know that. I'm like, no, we do, because otherwise Aubameyang might have started any of these games. He doesn't just sit on the bench. Do you know what I mean? If he had any interest in him at all, and I just really don't think he does. Like, I mean, about the summer, right? I don't want to sit here and be a smart ass at all.
Yeah.
But I'll be perfectly honest, when it was about Sterling, I was like, well, I'd rather Gabriel Jesus than Sterling.
I would as well. I would have rather Jesus.
And Koulibaly, I was like, okay, I like Koulibaly, but we're about 4 years late on this one. I would have liked to sign him 4 years ago. Not now. Not now when we need, like, as one of the players, but not to replace Rudiger at 31. Like, he's a decent player, and I still think that we need to give him a little bit of time. I also think yesterday was kind of thrown under the bus by Azpilicueta.
He was
and
exposed big time,
and Jorginho in front of him, and the tactics, but also just the fact that Forest clearly targeted our right-hand defensive side, which mostly I think with an aim to Aspi. But then obviously if Aspi's not there, that meant Koulibaly has to defend it all on his own, which I don't even think like Rudiger would have handled it much better, of course, but I don't think many defenders would have done. Like, which centre-back does well with having to deal with 3 attackers on his own? No one. Yeah, I mean, no matter how good you are, you're going to struggle 1 against 3. It doesn't matter who you are then. And this, my God, Sterling is a real issue to me at the moment. I know he scored yesterday in fair play, and thank God at least we got us 1 point, I guess. But my God, honestly, I was sat there yesterday and I put it in a group chat, and I said it on my stream yesterday. I said he's as bad as Timo Werner at this point. And I'm people terrible, know mate. How critical I was of Timo Werner. For me, even though it was in the heat of the moment, and I don't actually believe that. In that moment, the fact that I even said it, you know how bad you have to be for me to say that? That someone's as bad as Timo Werner?
It's not suggesting that Timo Werner is a better player than Sterling, because everyone knows, or everyone with a footballing brain realizes that Raheem Sterling is a better player than Timo Werner. But what we're saying is that right now, in terms of impact, Sterling in his first 6 months at the club has barely done anything different to what Werner did in his last 6 months at Chelsea. Like the difference in terms of output is absolutely
worked hard on that. Sure.
The difference in output is minimal, if at all. Like that's worrying. And then you look at, and then people say, look at how bad Lukaku was, and yes, he was. But then you look at what you're getting from Aubameyang compared to what you got from Lukaku. I actually think what you get from Aubameyang is even worse. Like even worse, because at least Lukaku had physical presence and and kind of could score goals and stuff. But I don't even trust Aubameyang to score any goals. He's playing wide at the moment. He doesn't do anything when he comes on. He's
so busy dropping deep. Like I know people always like when I mention it about Havertz. Well, he links play up, he moves well and stuff. People say, "Well, Aubameyang drops deep," and yeah, he drops steep, but then doesn't get back up the pitch. That's completely pointless. I don't need another midfielder in Aubameyang. Like, what is that? That is not a thing to praise him for. My God.
Yeah, it's a problem. But yeah, that summer recruitment, I look at it and I just think. And this is, I don't want to lie, and this is not about, slagging off Tuchel or whatever, but I think he's got a big responsibility in this midfield mess that we're in. I'm not saying he's responsible for the years and years prior to his arrival for not addressing the midfield options. That's not his issue. But what is his issue is that we could have signed a midfield player last summer. The money was there to do it. We wanted to do it. Well, we didn't actually want to do it, but the money was there to do it. Bodie was happy to spend the money to bring a midfield player in.
Even the summer before, we spent 100 million on Lukaku. If we wanted to, we clearly could have signed a midfielder.
Yeah. And for Tuchel, that quote, I won't bother finding it now. That quote, when he said, "Oh, we've got Kovacic, we've got Loftus-Cheek, we've got Gallagher and whatnot, Kante injured." The fact that he said he doesn't need another midfield player is that was criminal from him. I don't know if he actually meant it or not, but that was criminal to say that, and to then be scrambling around on deadline day thinking, "Shit, we actually do need a midfielder, and we have to bring Zakaria in on loan." Which, let's be honest, no one really wanted him. We had to bring someone in because think how fucked we'd be if we didn't have Zakaria now. Like it would be terrible.
Ruben's back in training now. So
Ruben's back in training now, but yeah, it wouldn't have been a good situation. So Tuchel's got to take some responsibility for that last summer, because we could have got a midfield player. But
can I ask you though, because like what I said earlier, in terms of I think as individuals, they're not that. Take like Zakaria and Saul, those types of players out of it. Even though Zakaria has done well in the grand scheme of things when he got the chance. When you look at the individuals, Jorginho isn't an awful player. Now, sure, he has his weaknesses, and but if you have the right players around him, Jorginho can be a very important player to any team. There's a reason City wanted him.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though.
The same you can say about Kovacic. The same you can say about Mount. The same you can say about Kante when he's fit. All of these guys are good players in their own right, but as a collective, we just don't work, and that's why I believe that we will get on the right path soon-ish, now the summer next year, because now we have a recruitment team in place.
Yeah,
we'll sign players that work together. I hope and I believe.
Yeah,
right. But you can't fix that from one day to another, and I think that's what people sometimes kind of ignore. And they thought, okay, the World Cup happened now. We played one good, decent game, let's say, against Bournemouth, and by the reaction from yesterday, it almost felt like everyone just completely forgot about every single issue that we had before the World Cup started. Like, people thought they would just magically disappear. I just don't understand.
But people like look at Jorginho, and we know what his skill set is, and we know that what he is good at. He's very good at. But the problem is, and particularly in a back four system, when he plays as that number 6, like he did yesterday, he needs players to support him, and so that he doesn't get exposed. And he's very exposed when he doesn't play with players that support him. Look, when he plays with Italy, he's got Verratti and he's got Barella in front of him, and that kind of those two profile of players kind of cover Jorginho's deficiencies. And in a 3 at the back as well, he's more supported. Whereas when he's playing with Zakaria and Mount in front of him, there's no support, and he's left massively exposed, and he gets bullied in that midfield. He's got a tendency to get bullied when he's sat on his own in that 6th position when there's no one supporting him. It doesn't happen as much for Italy because I said he's got Verratti and he's got Barella in front of him. Verratti does a lot of that work to protect him, and Barella does a little bit as well.
At the game yesterday, right? For me on TV, it seemed like our whole midfield line was super high, especially in the first half. Like Jorginho was so far into their half constantly. I'm not sure if it was to have a high press, but I feel like the back 4 didn't shift up with the rest of the team. So I thought even more than usual did Jorginho get overrun yesterday, because tactically, the instruction clearly, because Jorginho never does it otherwise, so why would he randomly do it yesterday? So it's clearly an instruction. And the whole midfield 3 was so high, and then there was such a big gap to the defenders, where I'm like, even if you're not as slow as Jorginho, I think if you're the DM and you play that high and there is that gap to defenders, I think everyone will get overrun. I don't even think it matters that he's slow in this case, because if you're that high and there's such a gap, I don't think it makes a difference, actually.
But I do think there's a recurring theme with Jorginho is that when we play him either in a system or with players that don't really support him, there's no surprise that the one person I feel that is affected the most by Kante's absence is Jorginho. Like when Jorginho plays with Kante compared to when he plays without Kante, I think there's such a difference in his level. And that I'm not saying that Jorginho is a bad player, but what I would say is that he's very limited he's got a certain set of skills and characteristics, and he's very good at them. But ask him to do anything outside of those characteristics, or ask him to operate outside of his optimal setup, then he gets massively exposed. And we've seen that time and time again. But what I do also think is that we might, on this midfield in general, I mean, you look at everyone at Chelsea, all Chelsea fans know the midfield issue is terrible. But you look at that there and you just think, Saul was shit. Bakayoko, dreadful. Drinkwater was shocking. Jorginho obviously bought him in. He's done very well for the club. Kovacic, I'm convinced we only signed Kovacic because we had a transfer ban. Because let's be honest, his loan was terrible. He was like on a Ross Barkley level when he was on loan. That season under Sarri, I remember all the outrage because every sub was Kovacic for Barkley after an hour, or the other way around. It was every single game. So that's the sort of levels that Kovacic was on. And if he didn't have a transfer ban, I don't think we sign him. And then obviously the rest of them is just dire. But I mean, you look at Enzo Fernandez, for example, which hopefully he might come in this week if he can get that deal done. There's got to be a realization that if Enzo comes in for 100+ million, that's not going to fix the midfield. Yeah, it's not. But I just got a feeling that people think, we're spending 100 million quid on a 21-year-old who admittedly is very good, but still got a lot of developing to do, and that he's going to be like the savior, and all the midfield problems are going to be absolutely fine. That just isn't the case. I mean, if Enzo does come in, mate, how much difference do you actually envisage that really making? Because I personally, if he comes next week or in January, I actually don't think he has that much impact in the first 6 months of the season.
It's difficult to say because I do think adding a young player into our midfield, and obviously we could do that with Lewis Hall already. We could do that with Chukwuemeka. We could do that with these types of players. I would say Gallagher, but after yesterday, I don't want to. And I guess we already kind of in a way do with Mason Mount. But I do still think that adding someone a bit younger, a bit more legs in there, and someone that still, hasn't won the Champions League an ungodly amount of times like Mateo Kovacic, just like, I don't know. And also someone that can actually play a dangerous pass from a bit deeper. Because I think because we are incapable of that on a regular basis, I think that makes defending against us as a team so much easier. And let me tell you why. Because when you know the opponent is never going to play and be dangerous with passes from deep, that means they don't ever need to really press the person that's deep on the ball. They can always focus on covering passing spots deeper and stop all of the players that we could pass the ball to from receiving the ball. But when you actually get someone that is dangerous with the ball at their feet, even around the center circle, then you need to already push one other player out. And that in itself, just that can help. Now, will that fix everything? Obviously not. But I still also don't think we are always going to be as bad as yesterday. And yesterday shocked me to some extent because, well, we had some players back. I was genuinely happy with the lineup. Like, obviously, Aspie instead of Reece James, but what else can... Like, he couldn't have picked anybody else other than maybe Chalobah at centre-back, right back, sorry. But then we don't even have a centre-back sub on the bench. Yeah. So that would also kind of be insane. Obviously, other than Bashir Humphreys. But, other than a youth centre-back, we wouldn't have a centre-back on the bench.
And people call for continuity in the lineup. And so I like, that's why I hate it when people are happy with the lineup. They call for continuity. He makes one change, which had to be made. Yeah. And it's the same team.
And then everyone's Potter picks a shit team.
And then afterwards, everyone's like, "Oh, it was a shit team." It's like, yeah, but you just said before the game you were happy with it. Like this is the flip flopping that's really irritating. It's because, it's such a stupid way of thinking about things. So you're happy with the team before, but then because the team didn't win, it was suddenly a shit lineup. It wasn't a shit lineup. I personally wouldn't have picked anything different. Maybe Chalobah for Koulibaly. Other than that, I think the team was...
Maybe Chalobah for Aspie, but
yeah,
who knows how that's going to work?
Exactly. It could have been worse.
Fans suggest it, but do you know what I mean?
It could have been worse. I mean, I also think there's a few other problems that are now becoming an even bigger issue than they were before, and I think I saw Rob. I'll try and find the thread later on. This versatility issue that actually the versatility of Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, and actually Conor Gallagher to an extent as well, is actually more harm than it is good, because no one actually knows where the best place to play them is. Everyone says, oh, it's best to play Mason Mount as a number 8. But actually, he's played number 8 a number of times. It was a bit better against Bournemouth. Yesterday, he was shocking. And it's the same with Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz, like, this conversation about Kai Havertz is so boring because we have it all the time. We've been having it for the 3 years he's been here. What's his best position? And we don't actually know. Kai Havertz is never a number 9 on his own. He just isn't. He's not someone that, would want to be leading the line in a game away from home against, against anyone, really. You look at traditionally his best performances, and it's been playing as a second striker or up with someone. And we don't do that. So it then leaves you a massive problem, because Kai Havertz's not really a wide man either. Mount is not necessarily a wide person. Gallagher, operates better closer to the goal. Yet yesterday he was playing quite deep. This kind of versatility, whilst in theory it sounds great, is actually causing us a problem. It would be so much easier if they just played one position and they just stuck with it. But would you agree with that? Do you think the versatility now of certain players is proving a big problem? You could even put Ruben into that category as well. Being good in multiple positions is actually doing more damage than it is good.
Yeah, it's true. I think the versatility can, like, being versatile as a player can most certainly be a benefit both to the team and to the individual. But it only allows the team to exploit those benefits from the versatility when you have a structure around it that works, right? Like, the fact that Mount can play as a 10, can play as a wide 10 in a 3-4-3, can play as an 8, just as an example, the fact that Havertz can play as a striker, second striker, number 10, whatever. But that helps us shift formations theoretically if all the players were set in stone otherwise. Then it would be super useful and super good, because it will make us tactically somewhat flexible, more difficult to prepare against, because you never know quite how we're going to do it, because we have players that can do multiple different things. But when we're in a position where those players that are the flexible ones are the ones that we rely on to actually do anything, then it's difficult. Then it's difficult. But at the same time, I also do at times think that people are a little bit over the top. Like yesterday, yes, it was really bad, of course. But Liverpool lost to Forest before the World Cup. Now they're ahead of us, and now everyone's saying they're going to be in the top 4. No problem. Like football swing around. In football, the mood, the situation changes so quickly. Like, how you said we haven't lost we've only won 1 game in the last 7 league games. True. But when we're not going to, but let's just hypothetically, if we say win the next 4 and then draw 1, by the end of that run, we're going to have 7 games which we didn't lose, which then will include actually this Forest game. You know what I mean? Because in 5 weeks' time, it's going to show up as a draw in one of the games that we didn't lose. But right now, it seems like the worst thing in the world. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like in football, everything changes so drastically quickly. And yes, it's a serious issue that this happens to us. But I think sometimes people also make it over the top. Like, we're not always as bad as yesterday. And people, I feel like after a game like yesterday, they paint it as if we're always this bad. I'm like, well, that's not true.
Mate, Newcastle away was worse. Brighton away was worse. Like,
Leeds away was worse.
Leeds away was terrible. Southampton away was fucking awful. Like,
Everton away, by the way, was pretty much the same. We scored 1 goal through a penalty.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it was only Everton playing.
Yeah.
The game against Everton at the first game of the season under Thomas Tuchel was identical to yesterday, really.
Yeah. Mate, the best game we've played in the league is that Spurs game in second game of the season. Since then, all right, we played well.
Maybe Wolves at home,
Wolves at home, actually. But even that game then, people were absolutely fuming with all those changes to the lineup. It's actually probably the best we've played in the league under Potter.
Maybe we should play that team more often.
Yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it? It's a I don't know. It's a strange one, but like, how do you see this changing? Because obviously, yesterday, a missed opportunity. We could have gone. I'm not
Spurs lost and everything.
Spurs lost. Newcastle dropped points against Leeds the day before. It was a chance to go 5 points off the top 4. Obviously, we're 7 points off the top 4 now. The top 4 is still very much possible. 7 points. If people are saying that City can catch 7 points on Arsenal, then we can
it's
certainly
arguably more easy for us to catch 7 points.
Yeah, we should be able
to trying to do it not against the team that's top.
Yeah,
You know what I mean,
so and we can certainly make up 7 points on Man United. You know, obviously a lot of things have to change, but we're more than capable of closing 7 points gap to the top 4. But you can't keep dropping points like that. Next run of fixtures is really difficult coming up. We've got. I'll just bring it up on the screen now. I mean, you look at it, and with the form we're in, you sort of think, Jesus, how many points are we actually going to get from these games? I mean, look at these games here. Next 5, obviously next 4 in the league, City in the Cup on Sunday. I mean, you look at that and you just think, how many wins are we getting from that? I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, now, we probably beat Palace at home and that's it. I mean, how worried are you by these next 5 games and that 1 win in 7 could become 1 win in 10 or 12?
You have to be slightly worried about it. I try to think of positive things in life.
Yeah.
So you never we could
win Thursday night, and then
we could win Thursday night all of a sudden, or at least get a draw, which against City at least people would somewhat accept.
Mate, I'd take the draw now.
No, exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me that draw, man. Give it to me immediately. Because I'm a little bit scared of a sorry City game where we'll get battered. I'm a little bit scared. Did you see the counter-attacks Forest had yesterday?
Mate, can you imagine Haaland up against Koulibaly yesterday?
One over the top ball from De Bruyne, and Haaland is in a race with Thiago Silva and Aspi.
Yeah. Yeah. Mate, the thought of Mahrez or Bernardo Silva up against Aspi is...
Mate,
it's problems.
The only good thing is that maybe they'll play Grealish and he's not that fast either.
No, true, he's not. But
that's the only hope.
But yeah, I look at that. Look at those.
Back to the games, right? You're right. There is a chance where we only win 1. There's a chance where we win none of these and get a 1-1 draw against Palace. There is also a chance we get a draw against City, we beat Fulham, we beat Palace. And I know Liverpool at Anfield is difficult, but Liverpool are not that good. I don't care what anyone says.
They've not been playing that well.
No, they just won 2-1 against Leicester, and Leicester are not very good. Through two of the most ridiculous own goals you'll ever see ever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And difficult Darwin Núñez. I mean, they miss every chance they have anyway. Do you know what I mean? Now that I'm saying that, he's probably going to score a hat-trick against us. But, there is a small chance he could do, we could win 4 of them. But realistically, probably not.
I mean, mate, how important is this FA Cup game on the weekend to you? I mean, would you rather beat City on Thursday or would you rather beat them on Sunday?
Oh, that's a difficult question now. Because usually I'm always like, who cares about the Cups? But when you're so far off in the league that top 4 is, while possible, the longer we keep doing what we're doing at the moment and the more games that go past, the more unlikely it's going to be.
Yeah.
So then if you're not making top 4, then you'll scrape, then you'll take any FA Cup you can get. Do you know what I mean? I still wouldn't say it's more important, but I think maybe their importance has somewhat evened out. And I think maybe they're somewhat similar in importance. Because you've also, I wouldn't expect City to play their very strongest team in the FA Cup game. So just the fact that if they do that, look, that's what I'm saying. Liverpool are not that amazing. I'm not saying we're going to beat them, but Liverpool are definitely not unbeatable.
No, mate, they've not been. They've been getting results, but they haven't been playing well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these games are going to be tricky. There's no.
Well, what about you though? Do you value the FA Cup game more now than the league game?
I mean, I do value the FA Cup game. But at the same time, I don't want to go to another fight. I don't want us to get to another final and lose 4 in a row. So it's a tricky one. I mean, I think it's important. I think it's even more important when you are struggling in the league because a cup run can kind of it can kind of paper over the deficiencies in the league. I think we did a lot of that under Thomas Tuchel, where we weren't the best.
We already do that in kind of the first half of the season, not with a cup in an English cup, but with the Champions League. So when you think back to the autumn before the World Cup, yes, it's bad, the last three especially. But while we still had Champions League games on, it doesn't actually feel that bad because obviously we beat Salzburg, we beat Milan twice, we beat,
we did. We did.
Zagreb, we qualified top. So like,
yeah.
And always those that gave us a little bit of spark of, positivity, happiness, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at our league form and you're like, oh my days. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, but maybe then an FA Cup run could also do that, where in the end, the players all just start focusing on a cup run and then the league form gets even worse.
Yeah. This is the thing. Like, I honestly think that a cup run could be really good for us in terms of a bit of a distraction. But then at the same time, if we go out of the cup, it's like, well, no one really expected us to beat City anyway. Plus, it's less games to concentrate on. And I think the less you've got to focus on, it actually might be better for us in terms of trying to finish as high up the table as possible. I mean, I don't know. It's like, obviously you want to win them all, and if we beat City, you can look at it both ways, and you can think, actually, do you know what? We've just knocked out probably the favourites for the cup, and then it opens up a bit more because no one else other than Arsenal is actually playing that well. So you can see it. You can see it both ways. It's
what's also really is annoying for us, that our cup draws have been the way they have. Like, obviously
away both times is mad.
Exactly. Because the one thing that is a huge benefit of a cup run, especially in a season like we are having, is that, say, Lewis Hall, Chukwuemeka, these guys got even more chances and got even more chance to impress. They might actually force their way into the starting 11 regularly. And then at least you could take this bad season and develop young players with it. Because what we're doing at the moment, we're playing Koulibaly over Chalobah. We're playing Thiago Silva over Chalobah. Obviously, I understand it, but in terms of development for the future, it's not going to be any use, either of those two. We're playing Jorginho, we're playing Kovacic or Zakaria, who are both not young, who are both not going to be here for that much longer, especially in Jorginho's case. Okay, Mason Mount, sure. Then you're playing Raheem Sterling. You're playing Cucurella, but you're playing Aski. You could play, what's his name?
He went into the first team training today. I can't remember what his name is. Someone in the
Derek
chat said it earlier. That's the one.
Although Derek Abu thinks Jorginho is the best player he's ever seen. So, I seen the quotes from him. I think it was him that said that. I mean, at least if we had a cup run, maybe Chukwuemeka could get some more minutes. Lewis Hall, like I say, Hutchinson. So it could be a benefit in that sense. But because we keep getting fucking drawn against Man City, we can't even do that.
But one thing that I would say, and one criticism I have got of Potter is that if we are building for the future, which we are, don't keep playing players that obviously aren't part of the future, i.e. Aubameyang, Jorginho, we do have to play him, even though he's probably not going to be part of the future.
The one source Simon Johnson keeps saying he will leave. The other sources keep saying he will in discussions on a new contract.
Yeah, well, but what he does need to do, though, is drop senior players that aren't performing well. And that means that Chukwuemeka needs to be playing more. That means Lewis Hall needs to be playing. It means Chalobah needs to be playing. And it means Amari Hutchinson needs to be playing. I want to see those four players start in the FA Cup on Sunday. Yeah. They simply have to. I think at least two of them should probably start against City on Thursday. What, in the Cup?
Because I would obviously would be Broja otherwise, but now that we don't,
it would have been Broja otherwise. Mate, why not? What have we got to lose? Is he going to be worse than Aubameyang? I think it's virtually impossible. Is he going to be worse than Havertz?
Maybe a little bit worse, but what difference does it make? Do you know what I mean?
What difference? It's a fair point. I mean, he was in the stands yesterday watching, but I don't envisage him featuring in. He won't be in the squad on Thursday, I don't think. So Sunday is a different question. Maybe in the squad, but that's one thing that Potter does have to do. He has to now take ownership and make bold decisions, and that means dropping players that don't deserve to be playing, and that is pretty much most of the senior players. Like the fact that Chukwuemeka got 4 minutes yesterday, not acceptable.
And then he also comes on basically a left wing for Pulisic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And Havertz played in midfield all of a sudden. I'm like, what?
No, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, I did see this. According to Portuguese reports, Fernandes hasn't trained at all today with Benfica. So
didn't they say that he flew back to Argentina for New Year's celebrations or something?
I don't know, but he played the other day, didn't he? I don't know.
He played the other day, and apparently then he flew back to Argentina. I'm not sure if it's true, But
I'm not sure, but I mean, yeah, that could be getting closer. The Enzo one, but I don't know. Needs
did
to
you
drop.
want to discuss the Potter quotes, by the way?
Oh yeah, we can do, mate. Yeah, that's quite interesting because I know Pice particularly hates the way that he speaks in quite a lot of his conferences. One thing I would do want to pick up on is that yes, as Chelsea manager, it's not acceptable. Like at Brighton, perhaps get that sort of a point, and those comments afterwards are okay, but at Chelsea, those comments afterwards after a draw against Nottingham Forest is not acceptable because a draw for Forest against Forest as Chelsea is unacceptable. As Brighton, if you hang in like that, that's kind of more acceptable. So I do agree that Potter does need to change the way that he speaks and speak in a way that reflects the level of job he's now at.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because like a lot of people have been very critical of whenever he's said the effort was there and stuff. And I understand I'm not a big fan of it when it didn't look like the effort was there. But I'm like, okay, I don't really care if he says that to the media. I'm sure he's not saying to the players, well, at least you tried, guys.
Yeah.
I know people and someone like Pice doesn't see Potter as a guy that can be a tough guy. I think he can. But when he said that, like, not that it would have been unfair if we got more than a point. I people had to go at him for that. I'm like, well, fair play for saying it, because a lot of managers like Conte would sit there and say, oh, we had to suffer, we should have won. Do you know what I mean? Like, But what I really hated is when he said it was a hard-fought point.
Yeah, that is unacceptable. Yeah, no, it is. No, that's unacceptable. And I agree. We'll get back to that in a sec. Yeah. This, by the way, is quite big, and obviously, I know Felix does work with Simon Phillips and stuff, but I haven't seen anyone else break this just yet. Apparently, Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea is done. Structure of deal has now been agreed and signed, verbally agreed days ago. 120 mil plus 10. 120 mil is going to be in 3 installments of 10 million euros performance related. Medical departments in communication. Medical day set to be agreed. Mate, thoughts on that? I'll see if I can find, no disrespect, any perhaps more reliable sources, as it were. I'm not saying he's unreliable.
If this turns out to be true,
it's big.
Felix can, pat himself on the back.
Yeah, I don't want to discredit it and say it's untrue, but I want to see if there's any more more established people, as it were, actually saying it. Thoughts on that?
If this is, especially the actual details of it, this is a brilliant deal, because we're only paying 10 million extra, and those 10 million are, according to what he's saying there, purely performance related, which is then much more attainable.
They are.
Yeah. But also, then we're basically playing the release clause anyway, but we found a way to not pay it all in one go, so we don't have problem with financial fair play. So
it's
in
terms
of as much as it's still a lot of money and he's probably not actually worth that money, but you need to pay what you need to pay if you want him. In just the purely of what it could have been and how it seems to be turning out, you have to say fair play. But we said that for how many transfers this summer? So let's wait.
Yeah, we have said that. But yeah, mate, I'm just having a little look now. There's no other people have said anything as of yet. To be, I mean, look, it looks promising. I mean, Fabrizio has also said it would be an instalments in the past. So yeah, I mean, this could be accurate. I'm not suggesting it's not, but that would be massive. I mean, before we get back to the Potter quotes, but how pleased have you been, obviously, despite performances, with the way seemingly the recruitment has changed so drastically in such a short space of time, and we actually look efficient in the transfer market for a change? And the fact that we've already got Nkunku done for next summer, the fact that we're moving quickly on Enzo Fernandez to get ahead of other clubs, for me, mate, it's such a breath of fresh air, because we've seen for so many years it just be so shit in the market, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the whole transfer dealings of Chelsea since Todd Bowley and Iqbali and everything took over. It's been from the biggest highs to the worst lows, literally, because a little bit of me is like, well, most of these guys that we have in our recruitment team now only started like a week before we apparently had interest in Enzo Fernandez. So I'm like, okay, so how much scouting took place? How sure are we that he worked for us, or are we doing this purely on the back of the World Cup, and then we have to? I still think from everything I've heard, because I'm not an expert on him, that he's going to work. But do they know that because they scoured him well, or do they know that because they hope it will? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I'm still trying to wait and see. But the way we work in terms of the negotiation things, that is clearly taking a step up. Like, clearly.
Yeah.
Now, I don't always understand all of the signings we're making. Andre Santos, not really sure why we're doing that. David Fofana, not really sure why we're doing that. Even Badia Shil, I'm like, well, we have Colwell. So why do we need to spend
we haven't got
on someone that's probably somewhat similar? Not really sure about that.
Yeah,
either. But
I think it's future
it
planning,
works,
though,
at
isn't
least
it?
we got it done quick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Mate, just Felix is saying that he's done his due diligence with this one, made sure it's 100% correct, and sources incredibly well placed. If I don't get this right, I will cut myself off from talking on deals that aren't youth or loan. So basically, he's gone.
It's easy for him to say. In 3 months, no one's going to remember that he said that. And if he's
to be fair, mate, if this is wrong, the amount of people that are going to keep receipts on it and just post it under every.
But I always think that's harsh. Like, if this is what he was told,
then
something could theoretically change, and then that's not his fault. It could still be correct information as of today.
And this is a thing that people don't understand, is that, and I hate it when they say, "Oh, but." So all the journals were reporting this at the time, and now look what's happened. At the time of reporting, those things can be correct, but then a few days later, then they can then be incorrect because situations change. But people don't seem to realise that. Enzo missing training was not for New Year's. The Benfica board is not happy as this goes against their disciplinary regulations.
So if it wasn't for New Year's, why are they not happy then?
I don't know.
By the way, no, let's get to it when we get to the other quote. Sorry, I just remembered something.
Mate. So Enzo, this would be a massive scoop if this is right. Looks like it could be on its way. Well, supposedly could already be done. Let's go back to the quotes, mate. I do agree that as we say, you can't. One criticism, I think, and it's a fair criticism, is that you can't speak as Chelsea manager like you would speak as Brighton manager. And look, whether he says what he says privately in the dressing room at the training ground, we don't get access to that. But what we do get access to, and it's the only form of communication that we do get from the club and whatnot, is what he says in press conferences and stuff after matches. And it doesn't come across well. It comes across as if he's managing like a smaller team, and we're not. So I do think that's something that has to change. And I don't know if the players take it on board and they think, oh, the manager said that, he must be happy with the performance, and we kind of think that's acceptable. I refuse to think that the players actually think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
What the manager said. I mean, do you expect Potter to change the way that he speaks? I know there was a clip about after the Bournemouth game when he spoke about his time at Ostersund's, where there was a website when he first started there saying that he was crap, and then he could have, he could find plenty of evidence to suggest otherwise. I liked that sort of fighting talk from him. We kind of need to see more of that from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I do think it will change. I think, like, as much as people criticize, we got a mid-table manager. Yeah, we did. Factually, that's what we got. His experience so far has been mid-table in the Premier League. Now, obviously not mid-table in other leagues, but still mid-table in the Premier League. So give the guy a little bit of time to adapt to also the way it works here. But, and I was talking to this about this with Pies in like replies on Twitter, and then for a little bit in a group chat, because I think Jamie Carragher made a comment that we let Marina and Petr Cech go and Tuchel go.
Souness, yeah.
As soon as was it, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are all winners. Now, Marina had her faults, in my opinion. Also, Cech had his faults, because otherwise, if he was as good, why didn't he do something about all the bad things that happened in his time?
Yeah.
And Tuchel clearly had his own faults as well. But what I will agree with him, with Souness, if it was him that said that, is that I do actually see that could be an issue that we're having at the moment. That so many people that have been at this club and that embody that winning mentality that we had, whether it was from the very top of Roman, but also Marina herself, Cech himself, Thomas Tuchel himself. And now we replaced all of these people at the club. Now we replaced the manager. He clearly has a bit less of a winning mentality in that sense, just like Thomas Tuchel didn't when he went to Dortmund from Mainz, because he hadn't had time to get used to that. It's totally understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of fact. right? And we also got other roles, other people to fill in positions at the club from clubs of those levels, from Brighton, from Southampton, from where else did we get them from? From Leipzig. Like, none of these guys have a winning is all that matters mentality. And now I think Bowley and Benedict Barley do have that, but I think they don't know football well enough yet to spread that around the club, as like an ethos. So I do think actually that the change that we've made in the last 6 months, that in itself can maybe have a period of 6 months, a year, until that works again, of that we have that full winning mentality in the club. Because right now it would kind of need to come from the team. And as we know, it's not gonna come from the team. Like, if we still had Lampard and Terry and Cech and Drogba as players, then it would be fine to have this situation at board level. But because our team is as inconsistent and as weak mentality-wise as they are, plus then all the things around it, maybe that's an issue. But is it an issue that we could have really avoided? Most people agreed Marina. Well, it's not even a case of Marina was never going to stay realistically after Roma.
No, she was never going to stay. No.
Right. And, okay, Petr Cech clearly didn't want to stay without Marina. I'm not sure if we could have done anything to
because
avoid
I think Bowley wanted to keep him, didn't he, Cech?
Exactly. So I don't know if there could have been a way to convince him, if that was a sign for that he doesn't like the way Bowley does things. I don't know. But then obviously Tuchel left as well. Obviously that's going to have a bit of an impact. Now, is that nice? Is it fun? Is it good? No. But I do want to say one last thing before we get into this Enzo news here. You know how you said at the very beginning, maybe we'll have to come 8th back-to-back.
Yeah.
The reason why I don't think we will have to do that is because we have way more money available to facilitate the process happening quicker. Like, as much as there is still a process, especially the way we're spending at the moment, that's going to make a process happen quicker.
Yeah,
so,
at least
you have that hope, I guess.
You'd like to think so. I mean, just on this Enzo stuff about what he did for his New Year's, I mean, it's not that important, but according to this report in the Sun, Benfica fuming with Enzo Fernandez after taking a private jet back to Argentina for a New Year's Eve party against his manager's advice just hours after the 3-0 defeat against Braga. So potentially he did go to Argentina against the wishes of the club. And I suppose it's one of those things
I'll be honest with you, bro. I don't like this.
No.
I know it's against his old club, but if he's going to do it for Benfica, he might do it for us. And I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's that. And that's another...
the discipline might be an issue here. But he also just won the World Cup, so, maybe we need to...
Yeah, but I'm not questioning his character, but I do think that's something in terms of recruitment that Chelsea have massively failed on a numerous amount of times, is not doing due diligence on players in terms of outside of their ability. So whether like what their characters like, what their attitudes like, those sort of things. Are they a good fit for the club on more than just a playing level? I think so often we've signed players and not thought about any of those things. We've just purely signed them. Oh, are they good at football? Whereas you've got to look so much more into it. But supposedly Enzo did go to Argentina, and I suppose he probably wouldn't have done that if he was planning on staying at Benfica. I think he probably thinks, I'm leaving. The clubs are going to sort it out, so it doesn't really matter what I do. I do agree with you, though. I do think that it doesn't sit right with me doing that sort of thing. Whilst you're contracted at a club and whilst you're still there, you should behave in a respectful...
his eyes out after the last game. I'm like, well, what are you crying for then? You clearly don't care that much about...
Yeah, I do think that you should be respectful and act as a pro until your last day at that club. So it doesn't really sit too well with me, that. Brentford 2-0 up. This is so typical that the one we could have gained 3 points on Liverpool. We could have gained 3 on Spurs. We could have gained 2 on... we could have gained 2 on Newcastle. And yeah, it's so annoying. If Enzo delivers the good, he can fly home after every match.
No, see, I disagree, Toppins. I don't care. Even if you play well, you're not doing that, man. And if Potter lets him do that, then I'm going to be the one to sit there and put out. You know what I mean? Because I'm not having that.
Nah, mate. You can't have that, mate. Just to briefly round out, rest of January, it looks like Enzo is very close. That's obviously going to take up a large chunk of the money. Yes, we're going to be paying for it in favourable terms to us in terms of FFP, but we have still, that money is still going to be outlaid. What else do you think we're going to do? Because I think midfield, that'll be the one midfielder that will come this window, and then we'll bring someone else in the summer. But I mean, right backs, there's not many
we
about.
need a right back.
I mean,
honestly, I would have. The second Reece James got injured, we should have halted Enzo until we had a right back. Like, genuinely, we need a right back.
Who do you think is going to come? I mean, looking at names, and I'm seeing like Juranovic, this Croatian from Celtic, will probably be the cheapest, probably easiest one to get. And
there was a couple of names who, I'll be honest, I don't remember the names.
Malagusto.
That's him. But where does he play?
Leon. He's Leon, but he's only like 20 odd. So again, is he going to come in and make an impact? I'm not sure. Maybe he would. But I mean, Juranovic, do you think?
There's Frimpong from Leverkusen we would link with.
They're not going to. I can't see players like Dumfries or Frimpong being able to leave in January without offering ridiculous fee.
Frimpong maybe, but Dumfries, I agree. But yeah, the only issue I have with Juranovic, and I said this yesterday, he's 27 and plays at Celtic. If you're 27 and you play at Celtic, can you be that good?
It's a fair point.
I know Celtic are actually decent at the moment, like not like when Jarrett battered them, but yeah,
they've got better. They've got better. But
I still think we should have signed Klaus last summer. I was saying,
he was 10 mil. He was 10 mil.
Yeah, and he can play left back. On FIFA, he has a left wing back in form, so he must be somewhat decent at left back as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, in terms, obviously, right back for sure. Midfield, I think, is going to be boxed off for January. Mate, what are your thoughts on us bringing a striker in? I know we've already bought Fofana in, but I don't think the plan was to use him. But given we're going to have to buy a right back this window,
out, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's fine. It is 2-0. They scored again.
Oh, they scored again?
Yeah, so they had one ruled out for offside, and then it is 2. Oh, yeah. It's now 2-0.
It's the same Donny as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so obviously centre forward, Fofana has come in. I don't think the plan would have been to use him, but with the money it looks like we're spending on Fernandes, and then we're going to have to bring a right back in, I could perhaps, could you see us actually not signing any forward in January and just using Fofana for 6 months and then loan him out next season? Or do you actually think we still need to bring someone in? I mean, the stuff on Makuku's gone pretty quiet at Dortmund. There doesn't really seem to be anything on anyone else. So, I mean, do you think that's kind of it, really? I mean, you can never say never. The window's only just opened a couple of days ago, but what do you reckon? Centre forward, unlikely?
It's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because I can't remember what the source was for it, but I saw somewhere that we're apparently looking for like a
penalty box
or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, but that's what we spent all that money on over the last years. Like we had Lukaku for that, we had Morata for that, we had all these players that were supposed, like that's not our issue. Like even yesterday, we can all say how bad Havertz was. How many times did Havertz actually get the ball in a position where he could do anything dangerous?
But this is what annoys me when people say, "Oh, we should have signed Haaland." Haaland's scoring no goals in our team because we don't create any chances.
We're probably sat here crying about Haaland like we were with Lukaku after the Palace game because he would have about 3 touches and we would never give him the ball to score.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, I don't know how true this is. Fabrizio is saying on Mark Goldbridge's stream today, Makuku will leave Dortmund and it'll cost 15 to 18 million. Chelsea, yeah, because his contract expires at the end of the season.
Well, then we need to be right on that. Like even if he's not that good, we can sell him for 40 million in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like just from a money perspective, we need to try and get him. Do you know what
I mean? Mate, do you know another one? I know we were sort of in the João Felix conversation. Ornstein reporting today, mate. Atletico Madrid must be mad. They think they're going to get. They want 21 million for 6 months. They want 15 mil salary and 15 mil fee and 6 mil salary for 6 months loan.
Mate, these lot are mental.
They're never getting it. I mean, if the financial terms were more preferable, would you be interested in Felix?
With an option to buy, yes. With an obligation to buy, no.
No.
Because to me, that's too risky. Like, he's a player, number one, he's a little bitch. Like, he's like Neymar. You touch him and he flies about as if he's a whole bloody airplane. But then he starts kicking people and he's a dirty little rat and I hate it. but he's clearly talented. But how the flip do we know? Like people say, oh, he's so good. Well, did any of you ever see him be good for Atletico? Because
Mate, he hasn't been. He hasn't.
He has the odd game where he does but yeah, Oscar had the odd game where he did something for us. Didn't mean he was any good, in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, I look at, I don't know, I look at Felix and I think, well, is he actually any better than Kai Havertz? Not really.
He's just a lot faster.
He's just he doesn't play as a centre forward really. But I look at him and I think he's similar to Havertz in a sense that don't really know what his best position is, and a team's got to be built around him in order.
The same applies to Nkunku, all the same.
Yeah, and in Nkunku as well. I mean, obviously, I'm looking forward to his arrival next season. But what's his best position?
Well, to be fair, maybe how it's an issue that where you don't know the best position of a player if you have other players around them. What you do, maybe if you have three together who's don't have a best position,
you don't know. What so you had like
always interchange? Maybe then it actually works. But if you obviously have someone that always needs to be in one position, then the others can't move around anymore. So maybe what we need is three, but we don't know what they're good at.
Yeah, quite possibly, mate. You could have Felix, Havertz, and then Nkunku up front. Mate, I don't know. I don't think that works, but I'm not sure. I don't think a centre forward comes. I think it'd just be a right back.
I just don't see who's available. Like if the Mukuku thing is possible, okay, maybe we should get involved on that from a financial perspective.
Does he make more
18, 19? Like is he going to fix our issues?
Well, this is what I was saying. Does he make more impact? Obviously he's done a lot more than Fofana's done in his career so far. But would Mukuku actually make like a massive improvement compared to what Fofana might be able to do? Like, is the difference so?
He's probably better than Fofana.
Oh, he probably is. But what I mean is, like, but
would he make us good?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is the impact he could have going to be so much more significant than Fofana might have?
No. That's why for 15 to 18 million, I'd probably be okay with that. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
if he costs like 60, I'm like, well, if you cost 60, then we need you to have
well, they can't demand that much anyway because he's expired contract at the end of the season. So, like, they have to. They have to do that, but
why didn't they sell him last summer? Like, are they stupid? He's like one of the biggest talents in all of Germany.
Yeah, but mate, you know what Dortmund are like though. They just want to.
No wonder they never have any money because when they have players to sell for big money, they say no.
Yeah, well, mate, they're going to. Well, to be fair, mate, they're sitting on an absolute gold mine in Jude Bellingham, so it doesn't. I suppose if they lose,
watch them force him to stay until he's got 6 months left of his contract and he leaves for 20 minutes.
But yeah, no, but January is going to be interesting. Like again, it'd be a massive boost if Enzo can be done before the City game on Thursday. That would be a huge plus. But otherwise, yeah, we just need to get the business done as quickly as possible and try and turn the results around.
But do you not think we'll get any forward? Because I feel like we might. I just don't know how good they're going to be.
I feel like we could, but I feel like it's suddenly become less of a priority since Reece James got injured. Because I think if Reece James hadn't got injured, I'd say we definitely buy a forward because the plan was always to bring in a right back in the summer. But this Reece James injury and how injury prone he's been recently, I think that brings that plan forward, and we have to sign someone else now. So I think a right back could actually come instead of a centre forward. But with this, mate, with these guys and Bowley and that, you can, and the way they're going in the transfer market, you can never say never. Oh, last thing, what did you think of that story about potentially hijacking the Mudryk bid?
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I mean, it seems to be a case of more if Arsenal can't pull it off because they can't afford the money that Donetsk won, Shakhtar won. Yeah, maybe. But the guy is twerking so hard for Arsenal. I'm like, should we get involved with the player that wants to go to Arsenal so badly? I don't know.
I don't know either, but yeah, seems like
seems to be fast at least. But how many players recently have we signed who were like, oh, he seems fast, Werner, Sterling.
But do we actually need another winger? Maybe we do, but not right now.
Well, no, we do because yesterday we brought on Chukwuemeka on the wing, so we clearly need a winger.
Yeah, no, we do. We do. But we can't address everything in January, so we'll have to see what happens. But I would say with the way these guys are moving in the market, don't rule anything out. It's certainly possible. But yeah, it seems like a good point to round out, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for getting involved in the chat as always. Make sure you smash the likes on the stream on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I haven't even mentioned it today, so make sure you do that. Make sure you also subscribe to Lawrence's channel as well, mate. If you're on your way to 20k.
Yeah, you know, we had a bit of a hold up with the whole World Cup thing, but
Yeah.
you know, now we're going well again. So you know,
make sure you subscribe to Lawrence's channel, linked in the description. It's also tagged in the title of the video, so make sure you go and check that out and subscribe to his channel and follow me on Twitter as well, mate. Are you close to that 10k on Twitter?
Not much closer than it was because I keep tweeting things that people don't like, and then I lose some followers. And then I tweet things that people like again, and I gain some followers again. Now
so
I'm
just
on like
breaking even.
460 odd or whatever it is.
Right, make sure you follow Lawrence on Twitter as well. Get him to that big 10k, guys. Linked in the description. I will be back. I don't know when. Definitely on Wednesday for a City preview for Thursday's game. If there's any big news like Enzo, might do something then. But yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of your. I was going to say weekend. It's not weekend. It's Monday. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and yeah, catch you again soon. Cheers.